Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today we're taking a look at this right here, Warhammer Underworlds Nightvault. Now, you may have heard of Warhammer Underworlds Shadespire. That was the first core set. This is the second core set, kind of a season 2 to the game, where there's going to be 2 factions that come, all of the boards that you need, 2 double-sided boards, all of the cards and decks and tokens and all that kind of stuff that you need to play the game. This is not a expansion that you need a core game for. This is a standalone expansion, I guess you could call it. But you're going to come. It's going to come with the Storm Sire's Cursebreakers and the Thorns of the Briar Queen factions. So let's get down to the table. I'll show you basically how it works. Focus on some of the differences that are in this core box as opposed to the Shadespire. And then we'll come back with some final thoughts in just a few moments. So let's get to it. Now, much like Warhammer Underworld Shadespire, Nightvault is played out in a series of 3 rounds, and each round consists of an activation phase and an end phase. Now, the activation phase is also then further split up into 2 different phases where you are going to do actions, and then there are power steps that come after the activations. So each player will take turns using their activation tokens, flipping them over once they've used one. And then, once they do an activation, they will have a power step, which they will be able to play power cards from their hand, either upgrades, ploys, or gambits. Gambits are new cards that are in this set. And then the other person will have the chance to play power-ups, and then it will be their activation. And then they will have a power step, and that will go until each player has activated each of their warbands 4 times each. And then they will have an end step where we will be able to score different objective cards, discard unwanted ones, discard unwanted power cards, and then draw back up. And then a new round begins. That's done 3 times, and then whoever has the most points at the end of those 3 rounds is the winner. So one of the first things that you can do by using an activation token is move one of your characters on the battlefield. So for example, if I wanted to use move the Briar Queen, I would use her move characteristic that is shown right here in the bottom of the card in that hex. And then she would be able to move across the battlefield, avoiding certain obstacles, but these guys have a little bit of they're ghosts, so they can move through different obstacles and the danger zones and blocked paths even. So she would be able to move 3 spaces, so she could go 1, 2, 3. Once you do that, you do have to place a move token on her, denoting that she's moved, and she won't be able to move again this round. Another thing you could do is attack. So if you find yourself that adjacent to an enemy player or within range, because some characters do have ranged attacks, you can launch an attack against that person. In order to do that, you would use the attack profile that the character has. So the Everhanged here has an attack that is 1 range away, which means that he has to be adjacent to his target. He's going to be rolling 2 white dice, looking for hammers for successes. And if it's a successful attack, he will be able to do 2 damage on his target. So he will take 2 of the white dice and roll them, and he got 2 successes. Now, Amos Dawnguard is going to be able to roll her defense, which is 1 black die looking for shields. So she rolls, and she did not get a shield, so that lands an attack, and 2 damage is put onto her card because the attack that was levied against her scores 2 points of damage. Another thing you can do with an activation is to have one of your characters make a charge. So this Chain Rasp here is going to make a charge. He's able to move up to 3 spaces, 1, 2, and then he can attack. So a charge action is when you move and attack if you find yourself within range or adjacency to an enemy player. Now, that means that this token is going to be placed on that person, denoting that they can neither attack nor move until the beginning of the next round. And so that Chain Rasp will be able to roll 1 die at a range of 1, and if it lands successfully, it's going to be a 2 damage looking for swords. So it was an unsuccessful attack, meaning that we didn't roll swords, we only rolled hammers. So there's no attack. He doesn't even have to roll his defense this time. Another thing you can do for an activation token is to put someone on guard. And that simply means that they're going to get a boost to their defense for the rest of that round. Additionally, there are some actions that are printed on the character cards. For example, Varclave the Cruel here has an action where he says that he can push all chain rasps up to the 2 hexes. So if I use Varclave's ability here, I'd be able to spend an activation token here and move any of my models that are considered chain rasps, which are the Everhanged, and then there are this guy here, and that guy over there. I can move all of them up to 2 spaces if I so choose. So I'm going to move this guy 1, 2 like this. Over here, this guy will go 1, 2 over here like that. The Everhanged here will come 1, 2 like this. And I think we'll leave that guy there. And then finally, there are 3 other actions that don't have anything to do with the board here. You can use an activation token to draw a power card up into your hand, and you can have an unlimited number of power cards throughout the course of your turn. Or you can use a activation token to discard an objective card and draw another one. You do have a hand limit at all times of 3 quest objective cards throughout the course of the game, though. And then finally, you can use an activation token and simply pass. Now, as I said earlier, the way you win the game is by scoring glory points, and whoever has the most glory points at the end of the 3rd round, or the 3rd end phase, is the winner of the game. Doesn't matter how many people are still on the board. So the way that you score points is by, first of all, killing your enemies. If you are able to kill your enemy figures, each one that you're able to kill gives you a glory point. You're also able to score glory points by finishing these quest cards. So quest cards have a requirement up here and then a reward of glory points down at the bottom of the phase. Some of them can be scored immediately once this condition is met. Other ones have to be scored during the end phase of each round. And so that's generally how the game will go, battling back and forth, taking turns activating our different activators, tokens, through 3 rounds of combat, and whoever has the most glory points at the end of those 3 rounds is the winner. And that's basically how you're going to be playing Nightvault. Now, let's talk about some of the differences between Shadespire and Nightvault. Now, the first thing that you'll probably notice on the board is that there are some red hexes that are sprinkled throughout the board. They're here, here, and then there are some over here as well. The danger hexes are hexes that will cause you 1 point of damage if you go into them for whatever reason, which includes if you are the target of a successful attack and they are able to push you back, that will cause you a damage. If you're moving through it, it'll also cause you a damage also. Now, another difference between Nightvault and Shadespire is the entrance of magic usage. And these 3 dice are called magic dice. And what's going to happen here is that if a magic user wants to cast a spell or some kind, they're going to roll this many dice and try to get as many successes as the spell is looking for. So if the Brighter Queen were going to cast this Rending Scream spell, it's asking for 2 lightning bolt successes. So you have the ability here of rolling 2 dice with the Briar Queen's magic ability. So she will roll 2 of the dice and hopefully get 2 lightning bolts. Well, she didn't. She did get a critical, which counts as 1 success, but the other is not a success. So this spell wouldn't work. Additionally, with the use of magic, if you ever roll 2 criticals, then it will cause the user a point of damage. Along with the magic usage are cards that are like this, which are upgrades, which you can put onto a character, and that upgrade will give that character an innate ability for using magic. So whenever the person that this is applied to is given the chance to cast a spell that is looking for lightning bolts, then they only need 1 other success, or maybe it's just 1 success and that spell will automatically go off. But they do have innate upgrades which will give you some more magic ability. Then you also have some spells are going to scatter. And like this spell right here, the Chain Lightning spell, you'll have to scatter 3 from that person's spot. So let's say that Amistongard here is going to be casting that. They're going to take a scatter template here and put it on the person's hex. So since this spell says scatter 3, we're going to have to take 3 dice and roll them, and then we'll be able to scatter them that direction. All right, so we're going to go with this will scatter here. And then this will scatter here, and then this will scatter here. And the spell specifically says that each enemy fighter in a hex that the chain in the chain suffers 1 damage. So this person, and this person would then suffer 1 damage. So that's about that for Warhammer Underworlds Nightvault. Now, how the game plays is the same compared to Shadespire. So if you are already savvy on the rules for Shadespire, this is not going to be difficult for you to pick up at all, simply because it's really only adding the Gambit cards, which is, as far as I can tell, the Gambit cards are just the power cards. It's just that you have some cards that are called Gambit spells, or Gambit this or Gambit that, and it usually has some type of dice roll that's involved in order for the card to work. Then there's the magic abilities that come into it. That's a difference. And the lethal zones, I was calling them danger zones. Highway to the... Anyway, they're called lethal zones. They're little red hexes that are on the board that will cause damage if you're pushed into it or if you move through it or something like that. But generally speaking, those are the only real differences. I guess the innate abilities that are on some of the cards now as well that give different heroes the extra innate defense that they don't have to roll for, or innate magic ability that they don't have to roll for, those kinds of things. Those are different. And then there's also the scatter hex that will be used for some of the different spells that are in the game now too. So magic use is really the main difference here between Nightvault and Shadespire. And some of the stuff that comes with that magic use. And then, of course, there's the nice little blue magic dice. Well, quite frankly, all of the pros from Shadespire that I had are going to be pros for this one as well. The miniatures are exquisite, but I will say that, for example, Stormsire here himself, he has a little bit of a droopy, staff here, and that is always causing me some difficulty. Now, the Stormsire guys, these were very easy to put together, and they look amazing. And I'm showing you some more pictures right now about those guys and how detailed their miniatures are and all that kind of stuff. They just look amazingly well done, and they were not difficult to put together at all. However, the Thorns of the Briar Queen, these were very delicate miniatures, and they took... my nerves were racked the entire time putting these people together because they are on such spindly setups, I guess you could say. I mean, they look amazing, don't get me wrong. The molds and all of that look great. It's just that I was afraid I was going to break these models. Every single one of them. Every single one, when I was putting them together, I was afraid that I was going to break them. And so these will take a little bit more time. They'll take a little bit more of a delicate touch for you to put together. But as you can see, they look amazing as well. The gameplay is great. I love all of the different aspects of the gameplay. I like how fast it plays. I like how quickly it flows. The only real clutch kind of is where it kind of seizes up a little bit is during the power step, where you have to look at your cards and make that decision if you're going to play your cards now or not. But that was something that was in the original game as well. It's not something new for Nightvault. But again, it doesn't really clutch up that much, except when you add more players to the count. So I think that this is... for all the pros that I had with Shadespire, the pros carry over here. Now, I will add another pro, and I think that the addition of the magical abilities that some of these heroes will have, using the storm, the ether storm or whatever it's called, to channel that ether storm and kind of use some magical abilities. I think that's a cool addition to the system. It provides for some more thematic style attacks, I guess you could say, and in that using the scatter die and you don't know exactly where it's going to go, but it's still going to be fun to use those different things. And the innate abilities that you're going to be able to use as upgrades for some of your heroes, that also works very well as well. So this is, I think, a great step forward in a new direction. Another pro of the standalone expansion basically is that it's going to provide 2 new boards, and they're both double-sided, so you no longer have to buy 2 core sets of that original one and then have 2 Stormcast Eternal armies and 2 Chaos armies walking around. You can buy the original, and then you can buy the second, and then you have 4 different factions to work with right off the bat. So I like the fact that they did that. I kind of wish they would have wish they would have offered 2 core sets to begin with, where you could just buy two different core sets, 2 different factions in each, and then have 4 factions to play with. I thought that would be a kind of a no-brainer, but I get it. They didn't know exactly how it was going to go, maybe. But you have a number of different factions. I think there were 8 factions already available, and now you have 2 more for Nightvault, so that's 10 factions that you can play Warhammer Underworlds with. So I think this is a great step in a very good direction for Games Workshop. Now, as far as cons are concerned, I think the only con that I have for this game is the fact that these miniatures are so delicate, and it would be very, very, very easy to break one of these miniatures, and I think even one of the stronger looking miniatures is even kind of delicate with this little staff here. So I think that might be the only con that I have for Nightvault, is the fact that the thorns of the Briar Queen are so delicate, and you just have to be really, really careful with them, and storing them, oh my, I don't know how that's going to work. You're going to have to find some type of protective insert or something. But really, that's about it for Warhammer Underworlds Nightvault. This is a great standalone expansion. I love it when games do this. They put just more stuff that you can play with in the box. They don't change how the game plays in its foundation. They give you a couple other extra little nuances that you can use and have fun with, but how you play the game doesn't change. They just give you more tools and more toys to play with within that sandbox, and I love it when games do that. So this is a great standalone expansion for Warhammer Underworlds, Shadespire, and now Nightvault. I think it's a great step forward. 9 out of 10. I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10. I'm really stingy about my 10s. I don't think I've ever given a 10 out. I could be wrong about that, so don't quote me on that. But 9 is high praise indeed, and I think that it's definitely deserved with Warhammer Underworlds Nightvault. So that's it. 9 out of 10 from me. Thanks for joining me. I certainly appreciate it. We'll see you guys and gals on the flip side. Take care now.